Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Dr. Interested podcast, where we explore health, medicine, and wellness. I'm your host Dwaraka, and today we're talking about something that silently affects students, such as how helping others too much and forgetting under pressure can amplify each other to create burnout, otherwise known as pathological altruism and academic amnesia. Let's think about this. Have you ever stayed up late helping a friend study only to completely blank out on your own exam? Or maybe you sat down for a presentation fully prepared with all your slides memorized and suddenly all that information you memorized vanished? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. So many students face that every day, yet they don't know what that is and how to prevent it. This leads me to my first point, altruism. You might be thinking, what is altruism? Altruism is when you help others, and that's generally celebrated, right? Well, it is, but there's a difference between altruism and pathological altruism. Pathological altruism is when altruism is driven by guilt, insecurity, or the inability to say no, which actually drains your emotional energy instead of helping you, which is supported by the book Pathological Altruism by Barbara Oakley and her colleagues. Let's think a bit more about this. Imagine a medical student who spends late nights tutoring classmates. They're being helpful, sure, but they're actually sacrificing their own study time and sleep. That basically declines their success rate of being able to pass an assignment or a test and actually meet the expectations of institutions. This is backed up by the article Healthy Selfishness and Pathological Altruism, Measuring Two Paradoxical Forms of Selfishness by Scott Barry Kaufman and Emmanuel Jock in 2020. It shows that students who practice healthy selfishness, which is setting boundaries and practicing their own time, report lower levels of burnout than those who are caught helping others too much. And when it comes to empathy, there's a difference between affective empathy and cognitive empathy. This is supported by the systematic review in 2024 by the article The Association Between Empathy and Burnout in Medical Students by Paul Keynes, Anna Isham, and Robert Zachary, found that students who absorbed the emotions of their peers too strongly was affective empathy, and the students who focused on understanding their peers' perspectives were identified as cognitive empathy. Now, there is a huge difference, but it's important to balance both of that empathies as well as generally, because think about it, helping others is great, no one's saying it's not, but if you help others too much, you won't be able to help yourself right. So it's important to maintain balance, which leads me to my next points, academic amnesia and stress. Academic amnesia is basically exam day panic, where your brain is just blinking out due to the high pressure of doing good, meeting expectations of your parents, friends, the environment, just in general. The article Timing Matters, Temporal Dynamics of Stress Effects on Memory Retrieval, published in 2014 by Lars Schwab and Oliver Wolf, showed that stress can disrupt the timing of memory retrieval, making it harder to recall information even after you studied it thoroughly. This is also supported by Learning and Memory Under Stress, Implications for the Classroom 2016. Sina Vogel and Lars Schwab explain that stress reduces cognitive flexibility, which is really critical for applying knowledge in exams or presentations. Moving on, a meta-analysis, The Effects of Acute Stress on Episodic Memory, a meta-analysis and integrated review published in 2017 by Grant Shields, Matthew Sasma, Marky McGlow, and Andrew Yolinas confirmed that acute stress doesn't just make you anxious. literally impairs memory retrieval. And in 2019, study Stress Impairs Memory Retrieval for High-Stakes Content by Sophie Gangon and Alexander Wagner. Participants under exam-like stress were much less likely to recall critical information even if they had studied it well. Like, imagine studying in the same room where you'll take the test and don't always help when stress high, as shown in Stress Disrupts Context-Dependent Memory in 2019 by Andrew Smith and Mark Gluck. Just think about it. Wouldn't it suck to prepare so much, but you just blink out when you enter a test room? That sucks, doesn't it? And that moves me on to my next point on how both those factors can amplify each other. Let's imagine a scenario where a student who blanks out on a test feels guilty or ashamed. This makes them want to compensate for it and overcommit to helping peers and overstudying to maintain the image in their mind saying, I'm not going to fail, I can do better next time. Which generally leads to their own needs being neglected and stress rises, and that cycle repeats, leading to burnout. This is also considered a burnout loop, where emotional strain and cognitive failures feed into each other. In career motivation and amongst medical students in Hungary, could altruism be a protection factor? In 2016, Zsuzsa Gifuri, Aniko Bikras, and Imre Zander found that students experiencing burnout often showed emotional exhaustion and academic struggles at the same time. In short, too much helping plus too much stress is basically a perfect cycle to feed for burnout. Now let's think about practical solutions. What can we do? For students could definitely try practicing healthy selfishness and set boundaries while protecting your own time, and possibly try taking a break if they possibly can from their education unless it pushes them back from catching up with their class. They could also use stress reframing techniques. In 2018 study, Optimizing Stress Responses with Appraisal and Mindset Interventions by Jeremy Jameson, Alia Crum, J. Parker Goyer, Elizabeth Marotta, and Modupe Akinolo shows that viewing stress as a challenge could actually improve performance. For institutions, offer structured stress management resources. The 2024 article Mental Stress and Cognitive Deficiency Management by Faris Al-Shaikh, Saif Taresh, and Ali Alazi highlights interventions that reduce cognitive overload, as well as adjusting overload and providing supportive academic environments to students don't have to overextend themselves to survive. And that was her institution. And those are the very basic things students and institutions could do if possible. Now, to summarize, from what we have covered, pathological altruism is something that can drain emotional energy when helping others become self-sacrificing, and academic amnesia is when stress can sabotage memory retrieval. Together, this is basically a perfect loop for burnout, and that affects majorly confidence, performance, and well-being. I would definitely advise students to set boundaries and breaks that are not selfish. These are very essential. Educators can also try to show small gestures, reassurance, and balanced workloads, which can protect students' mental health. That wraps up today's Doctor Interested episode for the podcast. We hope you enjoyed learning about the effects of altruism and amnesia in students, which led to burnout. If you liked the episode, be sure to come back for more.